Qianlong Emperor ruled Qing dynasty from 1735 to 1796. He ruled the Qing dynasty for over 60 years. He is the one who rejected Sir Macartney's offer to establish trade relationship with Great Britain. During the first half of his reign, he did a good job, but in the latter part of his reign, he resorted on womanizing and drinking. And he let his retainer, in modern days it would have been the chief of staff, take care of all the government affairs. The retainer amassed a lot of fortunes through illegal taxation and bribery. The same kind of illegal activities became rampant throughout the country. The Qing dynasty did not increase the number of government officials despite the rapid growth of population. Consequently, the mechanisms of the government to watch this kind of activity had progressively been weakened. The farmers who could not keep their harvest, the fruits of their labor, were starving, and the angry farmers rebelled. At the time, the majority of the population were farmers, and the majority of farmers were tenants, and majority of land were owned by the landlord. And these tenant farmers had to pay taxes. Then there was the person named Hong Si Kuan. When he was in 20s, he tried state examination to become a government official. He failed many times. Then one of the evangelists from the West gave him the Bible, and he read the Bible, and he had a dream one night, and he woke up with the belief that he was the second son of Jesus. He exclaimed that man and woman are equal, and he promised that he would distribute the land owned by the landlord to tenants. A lot of farmers followed him, and rebels swept through the whole country, and Hong declared a nation called Taiping, Heavenly Nation. The nation's capital was in Nanjing. Actually, there was a great palace in Nanjing. And the nation lasted 14 years from 1850 to 1864. It was kind of civil war, and there was a huge threat to Qing dynasty. And the battle was very severe, and casualties were about 40 million. Corruption and the power struggle caused the demise of the new nation. One of the major contributors on defeating the rebels was Li Hongjiang. Later, he led the self-strengthening movement. It can be compared with the Meiji reform in Japan and the reform in Chosun by Taewon-gun. During the 19th century, the politics in Northeast Asia was represented by Yi Hongzhang in Qing dynasty, Daewon-gun in Chosun dynasty, Ito Hirobumi in Japan. In both Qing dynasty and Chosun dynasty, the corruption and the decline of the national strength had happened almost the same time with same kind of pattern. In Chosun dynasty, Jeongjo died in 1800, and in Qing dynasty, Qianlong Emperor died in 1796. Since then, the reign succeeded by the three kings in short period of time in succession. During those three kings, about 60 years, both nations became chaotic because of internal conflicts and the foreign influence. British imported a lot of porcelain, silk, and tea from China, but Chinese did not buy anything. Consequently, the trade deficit had been increasing rapidly. Particularly, British was addicted to tea. When Columbus discovered West Indies, the sugar was being brought to Britain, and they used the sugar with the tea, and the taste of tea got a lot better, and British could not live without tea anymore. So the trade deficit was a big concern for the British government. So they were looking for something that they could sell China so that they can recover the silver that they paid to China to buy tea. British planted cottons in India for a while, but when they colonized Egypt, there were plenty of land that they can grow cottons in Egypt. So that instead of cottons, they grew opium poppies in India. From there, they sold opiums to China. British were able to reduce the trade deficit by selling the opium, but in China, opium addiction became a huge problem. In addition to general population, even government officials and the soldiers became addicted to. Chinese government prohibited opium import, and the use of opium became illegal in China. Then British decided to use the force to open up the Chinese market for opium trade. In 1841, to open up the opium market, a British fleet attacked Chinese junk boats in Canton Harbor. The British boats were moving around with fast speed with steam engine, and they was weaponized with very good cannon and the guns. However, the Chinese junk boat relied on the wind, and the cannons were not used for a long time, and a lot of cannons were malfunctioning. Chinese were shocked on the strength and efficiency of British fleet, and the British was surprised at that the the Chinese were terribly weak, a lot weaker than what they thought they would be. By then, China was known to be the center of the universe, in other words, center of the world, and had the largest economy in the world. But the Opium War showed the real China was just a paper tiger. The first Opium War ended in 1842, and British alone fought against China, and the second Opium War ended in 1860. The Allied forces of Britain and France fought against China. The Opium War was at the crossroad in that world order by China has ended, and it signaled the beginning of the European dominance in modern era. Historians marked the Opium War as the beginning of the Chinese modern history. Exploitation by Europeans had started in China, and the Chinese called this 100-year humiliation. China had to open up several harbors for the trade. Hong Kong was colonized by Britain, and Russia got the northeastern state of Qing dynasty, where Vladivostok harbor is now. And Qing had to pay astronomical amount of the reparations. Russia did not participate in the Opium War, but Russia led the negotiation between both Britain and France and China by the request of Qing dynasty. For that, Russia got the northeastern state of Qing dynasty. As a result, Russia now had the border with Chosun dynasty. Before that, Russia did not have the border with Chosun, and Chosun was surrounded by Qing dynasty only, so that Chosun began to have the threat of Russia directly. Qing was suffering from both ends, internally and externally, by rebellions and European exploitation. This is the end of chapter 6, and the chapter 7 will be about opening up Japan by Americans.